What if you are leaving thousands of dollars on the table every single month and you do not even know it? What if the Social Security Administration owes you benefits that you have never claimed, benefits that could double or even triple your monthly income? And what if the so-called experts you have been listening to on social media have been giving you the same recycled generic advice that does absolutely nothing for your specific situation? Right now, millions of Americans are not maximizing their Social Security benefits, not because they are lazy or uninformed, but because they have been fed the same oversimplified nonsense over and over again by people who have never worked a single day at the Social Security Administration and have never taken a Social Security claim in their entire lives. Today, we are going to throw all of that generic advice out the window and get into the real strategies, the specific situations, and the little-known rules that can genuinely put more money in your pocket every single month for the rest of your life. You have probably heard it 1,000 times from every social media creator who thinks they are a Social Security expert. The same 3 tips repeated endlessly. Work more years, work longer, and do not collect your benefits until you are 70. And sure, technically that advice is not wrong, but it is about as useful as telling someone who wants to lose weight to just eat less and exercise more. It is obvious, it is vague, and it completely ignores the reality of individual circumstances. Not everybody can work until they are 70. Not everybody can earn more money. Not everybody has the luxury of waiting years to collect benefits they need right now to survive. So let us put all of that surface-level advice aside and actually dig into the specific strategies that will help you get every dollar you are entitled to based on your unique situation. The truth is, there are hundreds and hundreds of ways to maximize your Social Security benefits, and it all depends on your particular circumstances, your work history, your marital history, your age, your health, and a dozen other factors that those generic social media videos never bother to address. Let us start with something that most people completely overlook, and it is one of the most powerful ways to maximize your benefits before you even file. You need to check your earnings record. This is something that shockingly few people do, and it can make a massive difference in your benefit amount. Social Security determines your benefit based on your highest 35 years of earnings. If any of those years are recorded incorrectly, if earnings are missing, or if amounts are wrong, your benefit calculation is going to be lower than it should be. You can check your earnings record by going to ssa.gov and setting up a My Social Security account. Once you are logged in, you can see every year of earnings that Social Security has on file for you. Go through it carefully and compare it to your own records, your tax returns, your W-2s, whatever documentation you have. If something does not match, you need to get it corrected as soon as possible. Here is why timing matters so much on this. If you catch an error within a year or so of when it occurred, it is relatively easy to fix. Social Security can make the correction quickly with minimal documentation. But if you wait 20 years and then discover that your earnings from 1992 are wrong, it becomes incredibly difficult, sometimes nearly impossible, to get it corrected because you may have lost all your supporting documentation, the employer may no longer exist, and the records may simply be gone. That is why it does not matter if you are 19 years old or 79 years old. Check your earnings record now and check it regularly. There is also something called the suspense file that most people have never heard of, and it contains billions upon billions of dollars in unclaimed earnings. Here is how it works. Somewhere along the line, someone made a typo when entering your Social Security number. Maybe it was you on a form, maybe it was your employer, maybe it was your accountant, maybe it was someone at the IRS, or even Social Security itself. Instead of the last 2 digits being 21, someone typed 12. Those earnings went into the system but could not be matched to your record, so they ended up in what Social Security calls the suspense file. They are sitting in limbo, waiting for someone to raise their hand and say, "Those earnings belong to me." Once you identify them and prove they are yours, Social Security pulls them out of the suspense file, adds them to your record, and recalculates your benefit amount. There are literally billions of dollars sitting in this file right now, and some of that money might be yours. Now let us get into the area where people are losing the most money, and that is failing to file for all the benefits they are entitled to. This is the single biggest mistake people make with Social Security, and it costs them thousands of dollars every single year. Here is what happens. Someone files for one type of benefit, maybe their own retirement benefit, and they either forget to check whether they are eligible for other benefits, or they checked years ago, were told they were not eligible, and assumed that answer was permanent. That is a critical mistake because eligibility for Social Security benefits changes over time. Just because you were told 5 years ago or 10 years ago that you were not eligible for spouse benefits or surviving spouse benefits does not mean that is still the case today. Circumstances change, people pass away, people earn more money, benefit amounts are recalculated. What was true about your eligibility last year might not be true today. Let us talk about a real example that illustrates this perfectly. There was a woman who was receiving her own Social Security benefits, and at some point checked to see if she could get benefits on her ex-spouse's record. At that time, she was told no, the calculations did not work in her favor because with a living ex-spouse, you can only receive up to 50% of their benefit amount, and her own benefit was already close to or higher than that 50% threshold. So she accepted that answer and moved on. But then her ex-spouse passed away, and everything changed, because when an ex-spouse dies, you are no longer limited to 50%. You can receive up to 100% of their benefit amount as a surviving divorced spouse. This woman eventually found out about this change and filed for surviving spouse benefits, and her income essentially tripled. She had been leaving that money on the table for who knows how long, simply because she assumed the answer she got years ago was still valid. This is happening to people all across the country right now. Let us break down some of the specific benefit types so you understand the full landscape of what you might be entitled to. There are retirement benefits, which are based on your own work record. There are spouse benefits, which allow you to receive up to 50% of your current spouse's benefit amount, if that is more than your own benefit. There are divorced spouse benefits, which work the same way as spouse benefits, but apply if you were married to someone for at least 10 years and are currently unmarried. There are surviving spouse benefits, which allow you to receive up to 100% of a deceased spouse's benefit amount. There are surviving divorced spouse benefits, which work the same way but apply to ex-spouses from marriages that lasted at least 10 years. There are disability benefits, which are a completely separate calculation and program. And there are child benefits and child and care benefits for dependents. Each one of these has its own eligibility rules, its own calculation methods, and its own filing strategies. And the way they interact with each other creates hundreds of different scenarios that require individual analysis. This is exactly why generic advice from social media does not work, because your situation is unique and the strategies that maximize benefits for one person might be completely wrong for another. Now, let us talk about a very common question that comes up about taking benefits early while still working. If you are 62 and considering taking your Social Security retirement benefits early, the most important questions you need to ask yourself are: do you need the money, and are you currently working? If you are working and earning over the annual earnings limit, which is currently $24,480, Social Security will withhold $1 for every $2 you earn over that limit. So if you are earning $48,000 a year, you are $23,520 over the limit, and Social Security is going to hold back roughly $11,760 in benefits, which amounts to several months of checks being withheld. Now, that does not mean you lose that money forever, and this is a crucial detail that most people misunderstand. Here is how it actually works. Let us say you file for benefits 30 months before your full retirement age. Your monthly benefit is permanently reduced because you filed early, a reduction for all 30 months. But then you go back to work, and for 20 of those 30 months, your benefits are suspended because of the earnings test. You only actually receive checks for 10 months. When you reach your full retirement age, Social Security performs what is called an adjusted reduction factor, or ARF, recalculation. The computer looks at your record and says, wait, this person's benefit was reduced for 30 months of early filing, but they only actually received 10 months of payments, so we need to recalculate. They then adjust your benefit so that it is only reduced for the 10 months you actually collected, not the full 30 months. Your monthly check goes up, and it stays at that higher amount for the rest of your life. This recalculation is 100% automatic. You do not need to file anything or request it. Social Security's computers handle it when you reach your full retirement age. This is a legitimate strategy for maximizing your benefits that most people never hear about. Now let us address some critical information for people who are on disability benefits, because there are unique ways to maximize your income that many disability recipients do not know about. If you are receiving Social Security disability insurance benefits, you can also receive additional benefits on top of your disability. This is something that surprises a lot of people because they assume disability is all they can get. That is incorrect. You can receive surviving spouse benefits on top of your disability benefits. You can receive divorced surviving spouse benefits on top of your disability. The way it works is your disability benefit stays the same, and if the other benefit, say surviving spouse benefits, is higher than your disability amount, you receive the difference as an additional payment. So you are essentially getting both, brought up to the higher of the two amounts. And here's another important detail for disability recipients. If you started receiving surviving spouse benefits as early as age 60, and you are also on disability, you keep your Medicare that came with your disability. A lot of people are terrified to explore additional benefits because they think it might jeopardize their Medicare coverage. They think if they switch to surviving spouse benefits or add benefits on top of their disability, they might lose their health insurance. That fear keeps them from filing, and they end up leaving significant money on the table. The reality is your Medicare stays intact because your underlying disability entitlement continues even when other benefits are layered on top. When you eventually reach your full retirement age, your disability benefits automatically convert to retirement benefits, your Medicare continues without interruption, and any additional benefits you are receiving, like surviving spouse benefits, continue as well. The amount typically stays the same, the funding just shifts from the Disability Trust Fund to the Retirement Trust Fund. Another major opportunity that people miss is the age 65 Medicare window. If you have been on disability and Medicare for several years and you have a Medicare Advantage plan, when you turn 65, you get a special enrollment period that gives you the right to switch to a Medicare supplement plan, sometimes called Medigap. In most states, if you are under 65, insurance companies can deny you a supplement plan or charge you significantly more. But when you turn 65, they cannot deny you and they cannot charge you extra during your open enrollment period. This is your one guaranteed shot at getting a supplement plan, which typically offers more flexibility with no network restrictions and no prior authorizations. It may or may not be better for your situation than a Medicare Advantage plan, but you owe it to yourself to compare your options during that window, because once it closes, you may not get that opportunity again under the same favorable terms. Let us also talk about the strategy of switching between benefit types over time, because this is one of the most powerful and least understood ways to maximize your lifetime Social Security income. You are not locked into one type of benefit forever. You can start on one benefit and switch to another when it becomes more advantageous. For example, you might start collecting surviving spouse benefits at age 60 because you need the income and your own retirement benefit is still growing. Then at age 70, you switch to your own retirement benefit because it has accumulated delayed retirement credits and is now higher than the surviving spouse benefit. Or you might be collecting divorced spouse benefits and then learn that your ex-spouse has passed away, which means you can now switch to surviving divorced spouse benefits at the higher rate of up to 100% instead of 50%. The key to all of these strategies is staying informed about your options and checking in with Social Security periodically. Do not assume that because you were told something years ago, it is still accurate. Call Social Security every 6 to 12 months if your situation involves potential benefits on another person's record. Ask specifically about spouse benefits, divorced spouse benefits, surviving spouse benefits, and any other category that might apply to you. If the person on the phone tells you that you are not eligible, ask them to explain exactly why. Make sure all the criteria are checked: your age, the length of your marriage, the other person's age or status, and the benefit calculation. If only one factor is preventing eligibility, ask what would need to change for you to become eligible, and then monitor that factor over time. One more critical point about maximizing your benefits is understanding that Social Security employees, while generally doing their best, are human beings who can make mistakes. The system is incredibly complex, and not every employee at every office is going to know every rule or catch every opportunity on your record. If something does not sound right, if you feel like you should be eligible for something and you are being told you are not, do not just accept it. Call back and speak with someone else, ask for a supervisor, request a detailed explanation in writing. You are your own best advocate when it comes to Social Security. And being persistent and informed is the single most important thing you can do to make sure you are getting every dollar you deserve. The bottom line is this: maximizing your Social Security benefits is not about following 3 simple steps from a social media video. It is about understanding your complete picture, your work history, your marital history, your health situation, your age, and all the different benefit types you might be entitled to. It is about checking your earnings record for errors, knowing about the suspense file, understanding how the earnings test works, and how the adjusted reduction factor can help you recover reduced benefits, knowing that you can layer benefits on top of each other, and being aware that eligibility changes over time. Every single person's situation is different, and the strategies that work for one person may be completely irrelevant for another. The Social Security system was designed by Congress to be complex, and navigating it requires specific knowledge about your individual circumstances. Do not settle for generic advice. Do not assume that what you were told years ago is still true, and do not leave money on the table because you did not know to ask the right questions. Your Social Security benefits are money that you earned over a lifetime of working, and you deserve to receive every single penny that you are entitled to.